This is a reading from The Evidence of Satan in the Modern World by Leon Christiani. Work in depth. For a moment we will stop quoting from the husband's notes. The devil was obviously losing something of his strength and arrogance at each session. Often he seemed to have left, but came back again, probably as the result of new malefices operated from a distance by the man who sent him. But the exorcist did not content himself with purely ritual intervention. As every writer on the subject recommends, he took great pains to deepen the possessed woman's piety, to reassure her, to lead her to prayer and communion, together with the husband. He considered that the couple's piety was his greatest asset in the struggle with the devil. Formerly, the young couple had not been particularly devout, but now they were developing a deeper sense of religion. Towards the priest, who had been at such pains to help them, they were full of confidence and gratitude. In fact, when he spoke of them, he was obviously deeply moved by this gratitude. Whilst continuing with the exorcisms, which were now taking place at ever greater intervals, he had been trying to approach the problem in depth. Sometimes Satan reverted to the attack, and the possessed woman displayed painful resistance. It gave her a great deal of trouble, but she was grateful for the prayers said on her behalf. At the moment of writing, the exorcisms are still continuing, taking place whenever it is felt necessary. Father Berger considers that there are many cases in which Satan cannot leave, although he would like to, since exorcisms are certainly painful to him. If he leaves, he is sent back by the magnetist on whom he depends and whose orders he must obey by virtue of the pact they have concluded. This is, incidentally, an established fact. Canon Sodreau has particularly stressed this point. The spirits in possession are sometimes caught, as it were, in a trap. They are kept captive by God's command in the body they have entered. From time to time they express a desire to leave it, but they cannot. In such cases, the purpose of the exorcism is not so much to expel them as to keep them under control, to reduce their power, and finally to make it almost impossible for them to do any harm. As an example of this type of captivity, we shall quote, not this time from the husband's notes, but from the exorcist's own report to the bishop, dated the 1st of January 1955. The exorcism of 31st of December 1954. After 15 months and 15 days of relentless struggle against the fiend, we were searching for a means of giving full weight to the injunctions of the Church at the last session of the year. We therefore decided, the G's and myself, by private arrangement with the Sister Superior, to hold the session in my chapel of St. Joan. I was hoping to get to the bottom of this obstinacy, if possible, to find out why it occurred, or at least to get some further details by way of confirming what Satan had already declared. At 9 o'clock yesterday evening, therefore, a memorable session occurred. First, in an atmosphere of revolt, then in one of slow responses, respectful and profoundly disturbing. On arrival at the garden which surrounds the chapel, Madame G. suddenly left her husband, and Satan, taking possession, fled into the dark shadows between the trees. A hasty pursuit. G managed to lay hands on the fiend after an extremely violent struggle. The fiend had to be dragged along, and on reaching the chapel he tried to cling to the ground. G managed with great difficulty to pick up the body, weighing 3 times its normal weight, and carry it into the chapel. The fiend, having been brought by force into the chapel, tried to escape between the benches. As a precaution, I locked the door. Then I intervened with authority, using holy water. Finally, I was able to make Satan obey the command to enter the sanctuary and to stand at the foot of the altar steps, facing the tabernacle and close to the altar of the Blessed Virgin. I ordered him to sit down. He stood up for a moment in defiance. Finally, he sat down on a chair by the sides of the steps, but began to protest in a loud voice. I commanded him to be silent. He obeyed, and the exorcism began. But before reporting the exorcism, I would like to explain why I have dwelt at length on Satan's attitude of rebellion and resistance. It was the first time for more than a year, to be exact, since 25th of December 1953, that Satan had tried to prevent his victim entering a church or chapel or any religious establishment. For a year, Madame G. had been able to pursue her devotions without any such manifestation of violence. This sudden hardening of Satan's attitude can only be explained by the following facts. The previous evening at my house, the G's had been telling me how B, in his dispensary at J, had been raging against Madame G. Madame G has an inner knowledge of any conversation relating to her, a phenomenon frequently observed in demonic possession, and had been shouting, "What, isn't the bitch dead yet? I've had enough. Either she'll have to pass out, or I shall." That is why Satan appeared with a sullen manner and that insolent smile you have seen yourself. This inspired me with the desire, on the last day of 1954, to conduct a very vigorous exorcism in order to bring Satan to heel, and to order him, through the exorcism, to depart. I also wondered if perhaps I had not made sufficient use of my authority to command. Perhaps the fiend was not sufficiently afraid of me. So, turning towards Satan, who was there in front of me, Madame G having lost consciousness, my voice dry and cutting, but full of indignation, I declared, "Tomorrow is the last day of the year, and for you, unclean spirit, it is your last day in this woman. Do you hear me? Tomorrow evening, in this chapel, in front of your Master and the Blessed Virgin, you will undergo the final exorcisms, and I promise you that willy-nilly you will leave." At these words, Satan disappeared, and Madame G came to herself. It was therefore undoubtedly a feeling of fear and an expectation of what was awaiting him that made Satan refuse to enter the chapel, and provoked this unaccustomed resistance with which the husband had such difficulty in overcoming. The exorcism. I began the exorcism. The husband, as usual, was standing close behind me. It was about 9:30 p.m. I admit that at the bottom of my heart I was cherishing an idea which uplifted me. Perhaps it was indeed the hour of the fiend's departure. I had decided that the only words I should say to Satan in the course of the exorcism, and delivered with such authority that no reply would be possible, would be, "In the name of God and of Mary Immaculate, I command you to leave this woman." These exorcisms were to be repeated 3 times, ending each time with the well-known words of the ritual, "Umiliare." As soon as the exorcisms began, Satan displayed a truly impressive calm and respect, and I use the words deliberately. I would almost dare to say it was a religious attitude, and as soon as the "Umiliare" was pronounced, Satan, facing towards the tabernacle, prostrated himself with his head to the ground, and then, at the end of each of the exorcisms which made Satan repeat the gesture of adoration, I pronounced in a resounding voice the single injunction, "In the name of God and of Mary Immaculate, I command you to leave this woman." Satan raised his head slowly at these words, and to our great surprise, since we were not expecting any answer or any sort of statement, he began to explain his presence in the victim. Here are his exact words uttered after each of my adjurations. 1. After the first recitation of the exorcism, in a slow, calm voice, obviously pain-laden and imploring, so that both G and I were deeply impressed. "Leave. Go from here. I cannot. You know very well that I cannot. It's that man, B, who makes me stay. I would have gone long ago if I could, but that man won't allow me to go. If you think I like seeing you come along with your book to torture me, and particularly since I know there's nothing to be done." I interrupted him curtly. "You lie. You are a liar." "No, I am not lying." "Yes, you are lying." "No, I am not. I know I am a liar, but not now. If I don't leave, it's because I can't." The conviction and sincerity underlying his remarks was for us unmistakable. 2. After the second recitation of the exorcisms, a more discouraged attitude. He spoke in a low voice, as if exhausted. For the second time, he has heard my adjuration, pronounced in the same authoritative manner, brooking no delay. "I can't. I can't. I can't." Here he leant back slowly, head thrown back, a gesture we interpreted as a desperate effort to quit the body. Then his head fell forward again. "I tell you, I can't." Louder and more firmly. "I shall leave when he has understood. At present he hasn't understood, but he is looking. He'll have to be converted before I leave. And I know that you will get him." These are Satan's actual words. "It is up to you, the church, to do what you have to do. As for me, I shall be against you. I shall do everything I can to prevent you getting him." 3. Third recitation of the exorcism. Third adjuration to depart. Same calm, respectful tone. Just now, he, B is in a state of violent agitation. He can't understand why the spell still hasn't worked. He's going to play his trump card. If there is a spell, then one or the other has to throw his hand in. He can't understand why the influences flow back upon him. I can't tell him it's you, that he's dealing with a priest. Here a short pause, then, listen. To convert him, you must recite many rosaries. Many, many. You'll be the one to drive me out, but it'll take time. Satan then disappeared. It was the final exorcism of the year 1954. Madame G came to herself very slowly and absolutely exhausted. The exorcist's report concludes with the following very relevant remarks. Anyone, of course, is free to form his own opinion of such a session, but those who, like G and myself, have for 15 months been in almost daily contact with the visible presence of Satan, with his constantly changing attitudes, his methods, his lies, and his truths, with his incredible deviltry, open or disguised. For us it was a declaration made at God's command. For us it contained all necessary instructions for ending this terrible spell, as Father Pale has called it, through the power of the Church. I believe, Monseigneur, that I shall not have to write to you again. You see what direction events are taking. Time is an important factor. In fact, a constant factor in God's mysterious design. No need to add that G's intend to devote themselves more and more to the rosary, and they are counting on your generous help. The battle is still in progress, but victory now seems assured. Thanks to the exorcisms, the couple have been able to resume an almost normal life. There are long periods of respite, and when a crisis seems imminent, the remedy is at hand, and the violence of the attacks has enormously decreased. Conclusion. We may draw certain very important conclusions from all these numerous scenes of possession and of exorcism, which are here collated for the first time. In the first place, there are striking similarities between all these diverse individual experiences, whether the exorcism takes place at Ars, at Ilfurth, in Natal, in Vietnam, at Piacenza, or almost before our eyes at the present moment somewhere in France. There are always the same incidents and episodes of the same character: cries, shouts, grimaces, convulsions, resistance on the part of Satan, and finally, after valiant efforts on the part of the exorcist, armed with the prayers of the Church, the inevitable triumph, often thanks to the explicit and visible intervention of the Blessed Virgin. In the second place, it is impossible to mistake the cases of possession we have reported for cases of pure and simple mania. The reasons for this are clear. On the one hand, the prayers of the ritual are totally ineffectual in cases of natural mania. A maniac would never be relieved by exorcism, nor manifest the explosive reactions of a possessed person. And on the other, mania does not disappear overnight, as we have seen happen in the majority of the cases of possession we have described. There is no similarity between the symptoms, the treatment, or the final result in the cases of mania and cases of possession. Finally, in cases of mania, we never find indications of the presence of a preternatural and obviously alien intelligence, as is established in cases of possession, and which constitutes one of the indications required by the Church before an exorcism is authorized. This leads us to an investigation into the activities of Satan in the modern world. The next chapter will, therefore, have as point of departure the conclusions we have already reached, and which we shall be able to confirm.